Aloha and welcome to a brand new episode of Geektopia. My name is Adam and recently I've been doing a lot of lists, Adam's apples as I like to call them. So today's a bit different. I'm just going to do a quick, brief review of a movie I recently watched. It's called Batman, Soul of the Dragon.
Nice pad.
Richard.
You haven't changed at all, Bruce.
You might be surprised.
Before I talk about the movie, I want to give a little brief historical recap and my personal take on Marvel versus DC. First and foremost, Marvel kicking DC's ass, like bam, 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 just like that, like a boxer, bam, 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 bam. But for me, that's only in the movie universe. There's no doubting that. You can't argue against that. You might prefer DC movies, but the highest grossing movie of all time is Avengers Endgame. Ben Affleck, the guy who plays Batman or played Batman in the DC universe, just came out to say Kevin Feige, who's like the head honcho for all the Marvel movies, is the greatest producer that's ever lived because he's been able to tie in all these movies over the past, 13-ish years, from Iron Man all the way up to now. That's an amazing achievement. That's unprecedented. For me, one of the greatest cinematic achievements ever. But DC are stuttering in their movie world. There's no question about that either. However, look at everything else, the comics. Personally, I prefer the DC comics. They're a little bit darker, they're a little bit better structured. The Batman comics are some of my favorites, particularly when Scott Snyder was writing it. Look at the TV shows. Marvel have had some good TV shows. Yeah, Daredevil, pretty awesome. Ran for a few seasons, the rights have expired and they've gone back to Marvel now. Jessica Jones, particularly the first season, was pretty cool. What else is there? The Defenders was a letdown. Iron Fist, don't need to go there. Luke Cage was cool, like the first half of season 1 until they killed Cottonmouth. They've really stagnated for me, Marvel, in the TV world. That's probably gonna all change in 2021 because they're pumping out so many TV shows, but at time of recording, that isn't the case. But look at what DC have done over the last few decades. One of my favorite animated TV shows of all time, and the quality of it is still amazing to this day, is Batman the Animated Series. I mean, I love Kevin Conroy as Batman. I go onto Cameo, that app where you can get celebrities to give you a message, and I just watch the ones of Kevin Conroy, hoping one day someone would send his one to me.
Pretty please.
Yeah, that's how obsessed I was and am with Batman the Animated Series. I've got it on DVD, I've got it on Blu-ray, I've got digital copies as well. But it's spun off into Justice League, awesome show. It spun off into Justice League Unlimited. It spun off into Batman Beyond. And then we got other shows like the CW shows, the Arrowverse. Arrow, The Flash, which is still going strong. I know Arrow has finished. DC Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl is heading into its final season. They've got Superman and Lois, a new TV show. They've got Batgirl. They're doing very, very well in the TV world. Look at Doom Patrol. That's a DC show. Look at Titans. That's also a DC show. You get what I mean? They're doing really, really well. Another area which they're doing well would be the DC animated movies. Compare that to Marvel. Compare that to the movies which they've been putting out in recent years. Over the last 10 years, there haven't been many. And I guess why would there be? Because their movies on the big screen have been doing so well. I mean, Hulk versus was alright. It was 2 stories of Hulk fighting different people. But DC, however, the last 13, 14 years have been putting out 2-3 animated movies a year. There's a vast library. A bunch of them are interconnected in terms of story. A lot of them are just standalone. And they've taken not just from established comic book stories like Flashpoint, they've also taken Elseworld stories. So if you don't know what an Elseworld story is, usually it's a standalone storyline in a separate universe. Like they adapted Superman Red Son. The gist of Red Son is, what if Superman had landed 12 hours later or earlier? He would have landed in the Soviet Union instead of back in America, which we've become used to in Kansas. So he is raised by Stalin. Now they turned that comic book into a movie, and it was pretty cool. The Dark Knight Returns, one of the most iconic comic books influential comic books of all time was given the same treatment, and they got Peter Weller, RoboCop himself, to voice Batman. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And so, this leads me on to the latest one.
You are stronger together than apart.
So what did I think about the movie? Ooh, it's pretty cool. It is nice. I mean, the DC animated universe have never been afraid of just setting their movies in different time periods, but usually it's because the source material, the Elseworld story, has already set it there. Like Red Sun was back just before World War II, or the start of World War II. They had a Batman Gotham by Gaslight, which in the original comic book was set in the 1900s, 1800s, around that time period. This one is no different, although it's more of an original story. It is set in the 1970s, and they capture the fashion, the music, the whole vibe of the 70s. Plus, they throw in cultural elements of that time as well, like Bruce Lee, James Bond, action movies, 1970s martial arts movies as well, which are really cool. All ties in nicely with Batman. And on the topic of Batman, he hardly appears in it, by the way, as in he hardly appears in costume, only 2 or 3 times. In fact, he has to be asked at one point to wear the costume. That's how little we see of old Bats, but there's still plenty of Bruce Wayne. You don't only have the scenes set in the 70s either, I just want to add that, because there's a lot of flashbacks. So they don't say when the flashbacks happen, but I'm going to guess late 60s. So it fleshes out the story even more. It shows how Batman met some of the other characters, and it also kind of borrows, well, it adds to the overall storyline as well. So it doesn't do it too often, but one moment you're in the 70s, then it's the flashback, and then it'll go back to the 70s, and then the flashback, and then back to the present time being the 70s as well. I also really like the voice cast. The voice cast are awesome. Why? Not so much because of their acting, but because I've seen them in other things. Michael Jai White, who has his own 1970s throwback movie in the form of Black Dynamite. One of the funniest movies ever. Please watch it if you haven't. Black Dynamite is amazing, amazing. They also had a Black Dynamite animated TV show, which he voiced the character for again. 2 seasons. That's not for kids, by the way, so little warning if you're planning on doing something like that. Kelly Hu's another character. You might recognize her from X-Men. James Hong, who I think for the last 30 years, every time you did an older Asian actor to act in a movie, he is the man. I think he's in everything, really, and his voice is borrowed in this as well. Another name I have to throw out is Mark Dacascos. So I remember watching him when I was a kid in Double Dragon, the movie. Yeah, Double Dragon, the lousy movie, but when you're a kid you think it's awesome. He was also in The Crow TV show. The Crow is, the TV show is based off the movie, which itself was based off the comic book, and the original movie had Brandon Lee in it as well. Son of Bruce Lee, everything is connected. That's my little conspiracy theory. Not really. But I remember seeing it on Star World and liking it. I'm sorry, okay? I know it wasn't that great, but at the time, it was the late 90s, and there really wasn't much in terms of live action superhero stuff based off comics. This was before Spider-Man, this was before the first X-Men movie, so please forgive me. Yeah, so overall, the whole cast, pretty good job, if you ask me. The story itself isn't the strongest, but I think they did an alright job, and it does set up a sequel right at the end as well. So, will they make another one? Probably. Maybe you set it in the 1980s. So from the 70s, you move into the 80s. I would give it 7 apples out of 10. Yeah, I said apples, I don't care. Because the DC animated universe have had better movies, but they've also had worse movies. So if you've watched it or planning to watch it, let me know. Leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe to Geektopia. Make sure you share this channel with all your buddies as well. As simple as that. My name's Adam, signing out for now. Bye-bye.